Good morning, YouTube. Welcome to the Reptile Barn. I have an interesting topic for you today. We are going to talk about what are the main things that we feel stop people from becoming reptile breeders. I know I covered a ton. I like covering an entire topic in one video. So I have Playa here. He's a beautiful male ball python. He is a banana yellow belly pastel clown. Okay, we'll talk about him here in a little bit. So I just want to real quick run through the main issues that I think stop people from breeding at all or stop them from becoming successful as a breeder, right? So I'm talking about people who they want to be profitable, right? On some sort of scale. I'm not really talking about you're a hobbyist with a bunch of really cool animals and you figure I might as well breed them sometimes and sell off the offspring as I get them. That's a great way to go about it, but I'm really talking to people who want to be a breeder professionally or at least as a side income, something like that, okay? So the very number one thing is money. You are not going to make enough money breeding reptiles until you have put in a certain amount of money, and it's pretty substantial, okay? So you can get your feet wet spending $100 if you want to. You can go to the store and buy a couple of corn snakes and then raise them up for a few years and breed them and get some eggs, and tons of people have done that. Tons of people have done that successfully, right? But that's a very slow and not very certain way of becoming a breeder, right? So money is a limiting factor for almost everyone. I know you see those couple of YouTubers who started like 2 years ago and they already had money. They had a successful career and they've built incredible collections, you know, state-of-the-art equipment, and they're doing great. And you're like, man, I want to do that. Well, do you have $200,000 to put in at the beginning? If you do, go for it. There's risks involved with that path, but it's obviously a viable path for some people. If you're willing to take out a business loan to do something like that, then that could be a path for you. Those were not options for us. We did not have the capital and we were unwilling to take out a business loan. So we have done the slow and steady build instead of just starting from a position of financial, really spending power, right? I've heard a bunch of numbers thrown around, but the ones I hear most frequently are you're not going to be making enough money to be a profitable business that's a good secondary income, or certainly not your primary income, until you have put in $40,000 to $60,000 into your collection, right? And that doesn't really include feeding them every week and housing them and all the bedding that you're going through and the sheer number of hours you're putting in. That's just, your collection needs to be worth a certain amount of money before it is producing more animals worth a certain amount of money, right? That was very rough. There's been people, I'm certain, who've done it for less, and probably some people who haven't become profitable until they put in quite a bit more. Just depends on some of these other things we're going to talk about. But just know off the bat, if you do not have a large sum of money, large to me, I understand that there's people out there that they can spend $40,000 on a passion project and it'll turn into a side business for them really quickly. That's fantastic, and I hope that that works for them. I really do, because I want this hobby to grow, right? But that's one step that, depending on your finances, can go at different speeds. But the second thing holding a lot of people back, that is going to be the same for everyone regardless of your money, is patience. Notice I don't say time. Time is your friend in this business, okay? It is not your enemy, but patience is different. A lot of people buy 5 snakes, 10 snakes, 40 snakes. They raise them up. They get their first couple of them up to breeding size and they breed them, and only 1 or 2 of them goes, and the eggs, they lose a few of them and there's problems. They end up with like 7 hatchlings. They're not the genetics they were hoping for. They realized they're 3 years in now and they really wish they would have gotten a different snake, genetically speaking, or species wise, and they lose patience. There was nothing wrong with the animals they got, the setup that they had, their husbandry was spot on, they were ready. That wasn't the problem. It was patience, right? They get out of the game because they're not willing to wait. And that is too bad. We are willing to wait. A lot of people who are successful at a lot of things in life were willing to wait until it came together naturally. You can't force it. These are live animals. You can't just send your team in to work overtime to produce your whatever product faster. You can't. It's a live animal, right? So far, we're not genetically modifying these animals to breed at younger ages and things like that. It's not being done yet, if it ever will be. These animals are hardwired with a code of genetics that we cannot really alter very much in some ways, to breed and to grow and to hatch at a set rate, right? So patience. Third thing that holds a lot of people back, and I mean a lot of people, and this thing is other people. And that sucks. That's a hard one to acknowledge, but people around you, people on the internet, people who live with you, best friends, family members, parents, children, it doesn't really matter. Some of these people are going to hold you back. They're going to be a weight dragging at your dream of a business in reptiles, okay? We have been incredibly blessed and lucky here at the Reptile Barn. We have encountered very few of these people. And the ones that we have are not people that affect us very much. It's not, close friends and family. It's not someone who really can mess us up mentally and emotionally. But for a lot of people, it is people close to them who are not supportive. They do not believe in this hobby. They either don't believe that it's ethical. They don't believe it's financially viable. They think snakes are disgusting and you're an idiot for wanting to breed snakes. There's a plethora of reasons why people might be unsupportive or downright nasty about it. But it's just a fact. And I don't care how tough-skinned you are. If you have family members telling you every single time you talk to them that you're wasting your time and that your dreams are not going to come true, that affects everyone. Unless you have no soul, that's going to affect you on some level, okay? And I'm not doing this video to give you pointers on how to overcome downers in your life. I mean, that's a huge broad. There's experts that you can go to. There's therapists, I'm not one of those. I'm just telling you to go in with your eyes open. These people exist, right? Not all of them are terrible, cruel people that you should just cut out of your life. Some of them are ignorant. And the moment you educate them about these animals and about your dream, they come onto your side and they can become a huge benefit to you. So I'm not saying cut them out. I'm just saying that they're there and you're going to have to deal with them in one way or another at some point if you're trying to build a reptile business, okay? The fourth thing that holds so many people back is yourself, okay? Again, this is another one that really sucks and that I don't have great answers to give you as far as how to overcome self-doubt, because that's what I'm getting at is doubting yourself. A lot of people, I've kept snakes for a long, long time. I had a corn snake when I was a little child and I was always catching things. But as far as being involved in the hobby, I'm 5.5 years in. I started researching it, I guess, longer ago than that, but owning my own snakes and trying to breed them and be a business, 5 years, really, 6 years, I never can remember exactly, but not that long. And I have already seen a lot of people enter the hobby and leave the hobby because of self-doubt, okay? They just, something went wrong. They had a problem. A snake got sick, incubator malfunctioned, something happened. They went to a show, brought home a snake, and their whole collection got mites. Something happened, and their belief in themselves wavers, and they get out of the hobby. Not because they don't love it, not because they don't have the skills for it, but because they don't believe in themselves. Again, I have no expertise to tell you how to overcome self-doubt, but that is something that a lot of people face, and that wrecks this business dream for a lot of people. Because I don't always believe people when they say, oh, it's just a hobby, I would never do it for the money. Some people, that's legitimate. They mean it. Other people, I don't believe them. And I'm not going to call out people name by name, or that's not my business, and I could be wrong. But a lot of people, I feel like, tell themselves that because deep down, they just don't believe that they could do it professionally. So they have to make themselves feel better, they have to say, oh, I love my snakes, but I don't want to do it for the money. I'm only in it for the love of the animals. And they get this kind of superiority thing, like, I'm not doing it because of love of the animals. I'm just in it for the money, right? They're doing it from these more pure reasons. And nobody has perfect motivations for everything they do in life. But to me, making money doing something you love is a very, very good motivation. I don't see anything wrong with that. I never have. So if you are someone who is certain, I don't want to do this as a business, I just like snakes, I am not talking to you. I'm not trying to call you out. I just believe that there are more people than admit who would like to do it as at least a side hustle kind of thing, and make a little money and go on a cool vacation or get a motorcycle with their snake money, you know what I mean? But they don't try because they're afraid to fail. And this is not just snakes. People are this way in everything in life, but it definitely affects this particular dream that some people have. They don't try. All right, the last thing, I'm cheating because the last thing is split into a couple categories, but the last thing that holds a lot of people back once they've decided to be a breeder, something that holds a lot of people back are a couple of key choices at the beginning, okay? So you want to be a reptile breeder, you love reptiles. You hear a lot of people online saying, oh, I hate going to reptile shows because there are only ever ball pythons there. I'm so sick of ball pythons, okay? You hear 20 or 30 people saying this on the internet in a couple of days span because you're doing your research. You might steer away from ball pythons. You're like, okay, well, apparently it's bad to breed ball pythons because everyone hates ball pythons. Well, that's not true. You're falling into the hole that is the internet. The internet does not tell the truth all the time, right? Clearly, people like ball pythons. A lot of people like ball pythons. And if you take those couple of really angry people's advice and shy away from the most popular species right at the beginning of your business, you will struggle. If you go and you're like, I'm going to look up a species no one's ever even heard of. I'm going to find an importer who specializes in the most obscure species, and I'm going to get like 10 of those, and I'm going to breed them, and I'm going to be this super hipster, cool breeder and be super successful because no one wants to see ball pythons or leopard geckos or corn snakes. That's lame. Well, good luck, right? The species you pick to start your business will have a massive impact on your business, okay? We started with ball pythons. We thought that those people were full of garbage because, one, they say, every show I ever go to, I hate going to it because, and I'm like, wait, pause right there. You keep going to them. You hate them every time, but you keep going. What are you talking about? And then to say you shouldn't do ball pythons because everyone's doing ball pythons, that logically from a business standpoint doesn't make sense. If you don't care for ball pythons, don't breed ball pythons. But if you love them and you love the morphs and you love their size and you love their temperament and you love their ease of care and all the other lovable things about ball pythons, but you're afraid that everyone's doing them so you're not going to have a market for your babies, think again. They're incredibly popular. People love ball pythons. You might hear people say these morphed species, ball pythons, boas, leopard geckos, crested geckos, and corn snakes, and even retics. Those key species that are kind of a pillar of the industry are only being sold at those high price points because it's breeders selling to breeders. And that's not a viable market system, and it's going to collapse any day. So don't get into those species because the market's going to collapse. Well, no, you're absolutely wrong. You're absolutely wrong, and your understanding of how markets work is wrong. There's several reasons you're wrong. First off, if you have a tiered system of breeders where you have 100 breeders who are the best of the best, they're selling $5,000 snakes every other day, they're probably selling mostly to breeders, right? Or high-end collectors. But then you have the next tier, and there's 6,000 of them. Okay, I'm just talking ball pythons because that's what I know best. But this exists across many species of very popular reptiles, right? So the next tier is selling some really high-end animals. Some are expensive, but a little bit more manageable, $800, $1,200 snakes. And they're also producing some even cheaper animals than that, right? Then you have the next tier of breeders. There's tens of thousands of these people, okay? They are buying a lot of snakes from those tiers above them. And they're selling a lot of snakes to beginner breeders, to beginner hobbyists, to hobbyists who may not be beginners, but they just don't happen to have that gene combination yet, and they think it's beautiful, so they want it. And they are selling to the public. They absolutely are, and I know that because we are, right? We have sold snakes to breeders. Sometimes it's the more expensive snakes that we produce. We don't produce yet super expensive snakes, but we have sold $500, $600, $700, $800 snakes as pets, okay? A lot of them as pets. So this idea that only breeders are gonna buy your $700 ball python is 100% false, okay? And it's not just a quirk of Alaska where we live. We've shipped them around the whole country. Probably every single state in the country except Hawaii we have shipped to, and most of these are as pets. These are not people who ever intend to breed. And I know this because I communicate quite extensively with pretty much every single person I ever sell a snake to. So just get that out of your head. If that's holding you back, that fear that, oh my gosh, I have to be in with the high-end breeders because no one else will ever buy my snakes. False idea, throw it out. Don't listen to it, okay? A lot of people who have entered this hobby, failed, and left this hobby are the ones talking this way, okay? People who are in the hobby for a long time and have found success know better than those people do, okay? And I'm not counting myself as one of those yet because I am still relatively new. I'm not making tons and tons of money, but I know that in this particular thing, I am correct. There are so many people willing to spend real money on their pets, right? It just makes no sense to me. People who are into horses spend tens of thousands of dollars. They're not breeding their horses, it's their pets. They're riding them, they're just interacting with their animal. People who are really into dogs. I have spent a lot of money on dogs. We're not breeding dogs and we never will. But I love my dogs, and sometimes I have a rescue, like our older dog Zoe, who was $75 as a rescue fee. Other times I wanted a purebred chocolate lab, and so we got one for a lot more expensive than that. So my point is, in other animals, this isn't an issue. People don't say, oh, don't become a dog breeder because you're only going to be selling to other dog breeders. That's nonsensical. But for some reason, a relatively small number, but very loud, bitter people will say that about leopard geckos and ball pythons and some of these other species of reptile in specific, okay? Don't listen to them. Don't get mad at them. You don't have to fight them. Just ignore them because they're wrong. So, the next choice that's going to be extremely influential is how much research are you going to do before you start? And once you've started, how much research will you continue to do? And I don't mean, see, I say this and everyone's like, oh yeah, you have to do so much research before you ever start. Yes, you have to do a lot, okay? But I'm actually talking about the opposite here. People get into this fear that I must do so much research before I start that I am an expert professional before I've even started so that I don't make any mistakes. And I know everything, and I'll never get called out on social media because I already do everything right, because I researched. It's never going to happen. You will either never learn everything there is to learn, and so you'll never start, or you'll realize that I actually just have to start because you can't learn everything. You're going to keep learning forever. That's just how it is. So yes, I am not a proponent of just jumping straight into reptiles with no research. That's not my message here. But don't be paralyzed by I have to do all the research before I ever start. Some species are very difficult to keep. Others are not so difficult to keep. If you are a competent adult who knows how to read and learn and process information, and you're confident that you can do that on your own, you can keep ball pythons successfully, and you can breed ball pythons successfully. You just can. There's nothing like so technically difficult that you should spend 7 years researching it before you ever buy a ball python. That's insane. Okay? The second to last choice that will be extremely influential on your success or lack thereof is how to market. Who are you going to sell to, right? This is a broad category, so let me throw out a couple random examples and we'll move on. What are your photographs like when you're selling your animals? Do you just walk into your snake room with terrible, crappy light, whip out your cell phone, hold your snake in your hand, and take a picture of your snake and then slap it on Craigslist? That's not good marketing, okay? I'm not trying to... I hate talking this way because I feel like it might make people feel bad. If I ever call out a practice that someone out there is doing, I'm not attacking. I'm trying to inform here. I'm not, this whole channel, I am not one of those channels that's like, I'm going to get my channel big by being super controversial and mean. I don't like that, right? I avoid those YouTubers. I can't stand that. But I'm not going to lie and sugarcoat things either, right? If that's how you're marketing your animals and you're like, it's so hard to sell these. I understand why people online say it's so difficult to sell their snake. We don't have any difficulty selling our snakes. Even from the beginning, when we were nobody knew us. We were brand new. We're in Alaska, which scares people off sometimes. So the photographs you take are gigantically influential, okay? Let me give you an example. Without naming names or giving you numbers, we recently purchased a snake. Now, we've purchased several snakes in the past little bit, but we purchased a snake. On Morph Market, I knew of 3 of this exact genetic combination of ball python, okay? One of them was significantly more expensive than the others. I'm talking way more expensive. And the other 2 were about the same. Guess which one we bought? The really expensive one. Same genetics, okay? There were 2 reasons. First, the other people had terrible pictures. We were about to spend more than $2,000 on one snake. I'm like, I'm going to buy from a guy who just slaps random cell phone pictures on the internet and calls it good? That sketches me out. And even like, because this was on Morph Market, right? Where we buy a lot of our snakes. The information about his business was just like 2 sentences. There just wasn't much there. And I was like, I know this person is a good person. I've seen their YouTube and I have no problem with them, but their business just didn't seem like they were dedicated to it being the best of the best business practices. And their actual pictures just sucked. 2, the other big thing was the quality of the more expensive one was so much higher. It was a far, far, far superior example of that genetic combination than the other snakes that were available. So we bought it. We picked it. We're like, we're going to have this snake in our collection for 20 years. We want the best, right? So we did, and thrilled with it. Thrilled with it. Could not be happier. Absolutely no qualm in my stomach that we spent so much more money on this one when we could have had the same genes for other snakes. That doesn't bother me in the slightest, okay? So the way that you market, the places that you market, are you going to pay for an actual membership on Morph Market? Your answer should be yes, I will do that. Are you going to keep maybe a website or a good updated social media presence, either Facebook or Instagram or something, or more than one, but at least one really well kept and maintained and updated regularly presence online for people to come and interact with you, look at what you're doing, get to know you, ask questions, see your animals, like any business, right? If you're shopping for anything, you want to know the most and see the most. You want to compare prices, absolutely. But there's other important things besides just, I wanted the cheapest animal, right? There's other important things. Some people will always buy the cheapest animal, no matter what. I don't know what to say to those people. But for a lot of people, there's other very important things. So avoid Craigslist. Just avoid it. If you're trying to be a breeder, okay, avoid it. Don't use it. The very last thing I want to talk about is the speed at which you intend to reach your business's final scale. Okay, that's a weird sentence. Let me explain. Say you want a business that is going to be a secondary income. You expect to spend 25 hours a week at this and make $50,000 a year after covering all your expenses, okay? So very good supplemental income, right? Without just spending 90 hours a week in the basement with your snakes, right? you want a balance. Well, do you want to have 500 corn snakes whose babies are selling for $40 or $50? Are you just into hatching tons of snakes? You love just wriggling piles of corn snakes everywhere. Hatching season is nuts, but much of the season they're in brumation and there's not much work to do. Maybe that's what you want to do. Or maybe you want to have 18 ball pythons total, but every single one of them is worth $6,000, right? So you only get, 10 clutches a year, but they are absolutely top-notch clutches. That's another viable option. You're taking care of these snakes year-round, but you're not really spending that much time at it, right? Now you're going to have to work real hard to sell those babies because they are very expensive. There's a narrower window of people willing to spend that kind of money, but they do exist. You just have to find them. So your work isn't really going to be endless hours of cage cleaning and feeding and all these things. You'll do those things, but for 18 snakes, it's not that big of a deal. The work you're going to do is going to be promoting yourself, taking the best of the best videos and pictures, going out on social media on many of the largest platforms, interacting on, Morph Market's, their oh my gosh, I'm blanking, their like chat area, their forum, yes. Going on to some of the large Facebook groups, as hateful and disgusting as some people are on Facebook, there's some of the best breeders are on there showing their things, right? So that's going to be your work if that's the kind of thing you want to do. Maybe you want an even more difficult but to you rewarding business. Maybe you want to have 2 pairs of 14 different species. So you still don't have that many animals total, but the diversity of species means that your care requirements, your time commitment is going to go way up, right? And you're going to have to be marketing to very different niches within the reptile world. Even though reptile keepers are a niche, there's niches within the niche, right? And some of those niches within the niche have niches within them. My point is, there's a lot of different scales that people want their final business to look like. How fast you get to that final scale or your final size of your business does matter. It's a lot less painful if your mistake affects $200 and one animal than if it affects $50,000 and 60 animals, right? You watching them suffer is just as bad as or worse as losing the money, right? It's the worst when an animal in your care is suffering. It is terrible. So that's everything, okay? Just think about the scale and consider going slower than maybe you financially could. If you pushed and pushed and pushed and pushed, maybe you're confident that you can do it and that it's going to be okay. That's great. Go for it. But just consider that the knowledge you gain from starting small and growing your business as opposed to just starting at the full scale what you want to be right from the get-go, maybe that knowledge is worth it. I don't know. That's something for you to consider. That is everything I had for you. I was going to talk about this guy, but we kind of covered the topics I was going to use him for just talking, so that's how it's going to be. I'm not going to backtrack. And I know I covered a ton, but I like doing that. I like covering an entire topic in one video. You know, I've seen even like, this is how to feed ball pythons. To me, that's one video. You tell people how to feed, but they don't. They break it into like 6 videos, and they're like, this is how you defrost the rodent, and that's one video. And this is how you do if it's going to be live feeding, and that's one video. And this is the timing. I'm like, oh my gosh, like just this is one video to me, right? But that's just how my mind works. I want to seek out a piece of information and learn everything about it in one video. So that's the kind of videos I make. If you don't like it, then I don't know what to tell you. I'm sorry, I guess. But yeah, so I'm not going to recap everything, but I just want to touch on the money thing real quick again, because I feel like a lot of people are going to hear me talking. They're going to be like, oh, so you just do it for the money? That's terrible. If I only did it for the money, yeah, that would be terrible. But I want to work with animals my whole life, and I want to not be broke and living on the street. So I have to make money. I have to. And I don't want to make money working at somebody else's business or company or factory or wherever. I don't want to work for somebody else. I want to work for me. And I don't want to work for me building apps on the internet or making sales or something. I mean, I want to make sales of snakes, right? But I don't want to be a salesman. So I have to make money. I have to make a lot of my choices based off of finances. And that is actually okay. I can't emphasize that enough. I personally hope and I don't think that I'm like addicted to money. I don't need a mansion. I don't need 4 cars. I don't need one even super fancy car. I just need like a healthy, happy life for my family, right? I'm not trying to say take your snakes and just rip every dollar you can out of them and work them into the ground. Don't do that, okay? If you're that kind of mentality that needs to just milk every dollar out of everything you do, probably don't use live animals, and maybe don't have like, never mind, I'm not going to go there. But anyway, I've rambled at you long enough. I hope this was enjoyable. At the very least, as always, you got to see a super, super cool snake. He's been breeding like a pro, by the way. One of his females has gone off of feed and is swelling up pretty good. The other 2 that he bred this year are ravenously eating, so I'm very hopeful that we will get some sweet clown clutches out of this guy and the females that he was paired to. But that is a topic for another day. And until next time, we are the Reptile Barn.